"We got an old lady who shot her husband for walking on the floor after she just mopped it," he reported. "Have you arrested her?" the chief asked. "Nope. The floor's still wet," he replied. A policeman was interrogating 3 guys who were training to become detectives. To test their skills in recognizing a suspect, he shows the first guys a picture for 5 seconds and then hides it. "This is your suspect. How would you recognize him?" The first guy answers, "That's easy, we'll catch him fast because he only has one eye." The policeman says, "Well, that's because the picture I showed is his side profile." Slightly flustered by this ridiculous response, he flashes the picture for 5 seconds at the second guy and asks him, "This is your suspect. How would you recognize him?" The second guy smiles, flips his hair and says, "Huh. He'd be too easy to catch because he only has one ear." The policeman angrily responds, "What's the matter with you two? Of course only one eye and one ear are showing because it's a picture of his side profile. Is that the best answer you can come up with?" Extremely frustrated at this point, he shows the picture to the third guy and in a very testy voice asks, "This is your suspect. How would you recognize him?" He quickly adds, "Think hard before giving me a stupid answer." The third guy looks at the picture intently for a moment and says, "The suspect wears contact lenses." The policeman is surprised and speechless because he really doesn't know himself if the suspect wears contacts or not. "Well, that's an interesting answer. Wait here for a few minutes while I check his file and I'll get back to you on that." He leaves the room and goes to his office, checks the suspect's file on his computer and comes back with a beaming smile on his face. "Wow! I can't believe it. It's true. The suspect does, in fact, wear contact lenses. Good work. How were you able to make such an astute observation?" "That's easy," the third guy replied. "He can't wear regular glasses because he only has one eye and one ear." 3 dogs walking down the street. A Chihuahua, a Golden Retriever and a Black Lab. In the distance, they spot a female French poodle and fall over each other racing to get to her. The poodle, not unaware of her effect on males, says the first one to use the words cheese and liver in a sentence that is smart and funny gets a date with me. She turns to the retriever and says, "Okay Blondie, what you got?" The retriever say, "I hate liver and cheese?" The poodle, in a haughty Parisian accent, scoffs and says, "Bah, that vas not funny and vas not smart." Turning to the lab she says, "Okay handsome, your turn." The lab looks confused for a second and says, I love liver and cheese?" The poodle coughs and snidely says, "That vas worse than that Blondie said." Finally the poodle turns to the Chihuahua and say, "Okay little guy, shoot your shot." The Chihuahua, who happens to be the Taco Bell mascot, cracks a broad grin, gives the poodle a big wink, turns to his friends and says, "Liver alone, she's mine." Barack Obama and Donald Trump inadvertently ended up getting a shave at the same barber shop at the same time. The barbers, wondering if things might get nasty, were nervous. Trump's barber was almost done and was getting ready to use an aftershave as a final touch. Donald was quick to stop him, saying, "I'll pass. Aftershave have a strong smell. My wife Melamine will smell it and think I'd been in a whorehouse." The other barber then said to Barack, "How about you, Mr. Obama, any aftershave?" Barack replied, "Sure, why not? Michelle has no idea what a whorehouse smells like." A Swiss man is in hospital, all sorts of bones broken. His neighbor asks him, "How did you do that?" Swiss, "I'm a bear hunter." Neighbor, "And what happened?" Swiss, "I stood at a small cave and said, 'Hoi barley.' A small bear came out and I let it go. Then I went to a medium-sized cave, hoi barley. A medium-sized bear came out, but it was still too small. Then I went to a big cave, hoi barley." Neighbor, "And then?" Swiss, "Then came the Alpine Express." A couple go to the zoo and stop next to a gorilla's cage. Husband, "Tease the gorilla like you tease me." The wife promptly pulls up her shirt. The gorilla starts panting. Husband, "Tease him a little further like you tease me." The wife mischievously pulls up her skirt. The gorilla is now running and jumping around. The husband opens the door, grabs his wife and throws her into the cage with the gorilla and says, now tell the gorilla you have a headache. It's their wedding night and a young couple is about to get intimate. The husband takes off his pants and throws them to his new wife. "Put those on," he gruffly commands her. She tries to pull them up, but they are too large for her and simply fall back down. "I can't," she says, "they're too big." "That's right." He replies, "I'm the only one in this relationship who is big enough. I wear the pants in this marriage." She steps out of the crumpled pants and slowly slides down her panties and tosses them playfully to him. "Put them on," she says coyly. "What? No way. I'm not getting in those." "You're damn right. And with your attitude you never will." A guy goes to the zoo and stops by the gorilla cage. The gorilla is just sitting there, so the guy starts making monkey noises and waving his arms. The gorilla starts making monkey noises and waving his arms. The guy continues with louder noises and wilder gestures, and the gorilla continues to copy his every move. Finally, the guy has tired himself out, and as he turns to leave, he flips off the gorilla, and the gorilla flips off the guy. The guy is outraged. He flips off the gorilla again, and again the gorilla returns the bird. The guy is steamed. So he decides he'll teach the gorilla a lesson about mocking people. The next day he returns to the zoo with a cucumber and 2 butcher knives. He tosses one of the knives into the gorilla cage. The guy starts waving his knife around. The gorilla does the same. The guy starts hooting and hollering along with the knife waving. The gorilla does the same. Then the guy takes the butcher knife and chops the cucumber in half, and the gorilla flips him off. 2 parents take their son on a vacation to a nude beach. The father goes for a walk on the beach and the son goes and plays in the water. The son comes running up to his mom and says, "Mommy, I saw ladies with boobies a lot bigger than yours." The mom says, "The bigger they are, the dumber they are." So he goes back to play. Several minutes later he comes running back and says, "Mommy, I saw men with dingers a lot bigger than daddies." The mom says, "The bigger they are, the dumber they are." So he goes back to play. Several minutes later he comes running back and says, "Mommy, I just saw Daddy talking to the dumbest lady I ever saw, and the more and more he talked, the dumber and dumber he got." Who's the most popular guy on a nude beach? The guy who can hold a cup of coffee in each hand and carry a dozen donuts. Who's the most popular woman? The one who can get the last donut with no hands. A Texan visits London. As the tour bus driver passes the London Eye, he explains how it was built for the new millennium in only a few months. "That's nothing," says the Texan. "Every year a carnival passes through my hometown with a Ferris wheel twice as tall that gets put up in a day." When they pass the Shard, the tour bus driver explains how it's the biggest building in the whole city, built over only a few years. "That's nothing," says the Texan. "In my hometown we have a skyscraper twice that size built in half the time." The tour bus driver is getting annoyed. Eventually, they pass Buckingham Palace with 100 guards marching outside and a golden stagecoach going through the gates. The Texan's jaw drops, and he says, "Finally, color me impressed. That's a fine building. What is it?" The driver says, "Fuck me if I know. It wasn't there yesterday." A farmer had chicken that would not lay eggs. He tried everything he knew from years as a farmer. But nothing worked. So he called a friend who was a physicist at the university in the city. He gave his friend all the data asked for, and his friend promised to find a solution. 2 weeks go by and the physicist calls him up and tells him he has a solution, but it will only work with a spherical chicken in a vacuum.